So could you talk a little bit about how you started to think about working with the visual artists and how that brought a whole new kind of information into the choreographic process?
I don't exactly remember what was the trigger point to start doing Escher. I think I was fascinated by his work for a long time. I was exploring movement with evaporation in a way that there's a linkage of, that the body evaporate beyond the limitation of the skin, and Escher with a duality of white and black, kind of having two worlds sharing and coexistence, with one unformed and the other one formed, and the way they interact through patterning kind of was an interesting point of departure to start a choreographic process.
So this, for you, Ying-Ying, you were seeing the images at the same time as the work was being built.
We started with the printed painting, not the real one, printed painting, and we look at it, and then every one of us will pick one picture that we feel is most impressed, and then we will make an idea of how to improvise. Eventually, Zvi picked up the idea on each of us, and also the group, how we can make things like look a little magical, how we weave, and not just the movement.
Can you talk about sort of the what you were responding to directly in the images, and how sometimes maybe it wasn't the same thing that Zvi and the dancers were responding to?
Well, I think that for me, each of the three segments were very different in my approach, just as the artists are very different. And so I had a very different approach and response to each one. I think Escher, it's hard to explain how maybe you remember, I don't know, but how I got in, what were you going to say?
We decided that it's going to be piano this time.
Yeah,
so it's like,
yeah, that I knew. I knew it needed to be a piano score mostly. There was percussion in it as well, but there was something about the idea of sort of pseudo counterpoint and the simplicity and the percussiveness nature of the piano. And it's also my instrument, so that I knew I could just have fun doing it. So that was part of it. And I always think of Escher as puzzles, sort of, and mind twisters, mind benders, or whatever. And I just thought, wow, that would really be fun to do on the piano for me. And I wanted to have fun doing that piece, because the other two pieces were not going to be about fun for me. And Bacon was obviously the most theatrical of the three, and that's someplace I'm very comfortable. The Bacon piece, I mean, really was, what's that expression? The paint wasn't dry and we were, just finishing it. That piece, Zvi and I, both music and choreography, we weren't done until the 11th hour, but we weren't nervous about it, because we knew it would come together. And it was the theatricality. There was a narrative, even though it's an abstract narrative, there's a very compelling narrative in it that relates, I think, to Bacon very much so.
Once you had decided, I want to find some other visual artists to continue this exploration, I mean, they're contemporaries, but their work is very different from each other. The sequencing of the evening, it makes sense because that's the way we've seen it. Did you all along sort of know that Escher, with its kind of starkness, and no? No, I didn't know. Like in general, I don't know things, and I kind of celebrate it. I think, a creative spark is kind of impulse. It's not an intellectual process that I can explain every aspect of it. So I thought that adding the two of them to Escher would be a choreographic exercise, something that will push me to new directions, creating different processes for each piece. I spent a lot of time on creating movement material, trying to create a language that was specific to that work.
and the dancers know, like how many times it change.
Could you talk a little bit about sort of your overall idea of, you don't give us the big tap dance finale.
The last solo, Ying-Ying solo, is a contemporary modern pearl in a way, kind of touching with spirituality. And since I'm not a religious person, I think this is a contemporary approach to what used to be a space for mythologies and ritual. I mean, this is kind of a new one. I mean, that's the way I approach it.
So could you say something about what it's like to be with the whole group in it's big, gorgeous dancing, and then it does go to a more contemplative place?
Right. As a group, we are trying to create this energy from the beginning, very quiet, but very consistently going up. And towards the end, Zvi always told us that it's ecstasy. So for me, towards the end, I do experience that because I'm exhausted. I can't even move my leg. So what made me move was the music and this build-up energy, and the other dancer in the space look at me, and that propelled me to continue whatever the modern movement I create with Zvi for my solo.
Scott, could you say something about sort of that conversation with the dancers in response to Rothko, and how you were also thinking about it as a composition, as a musical composition?
What I needed to create for this piece was a world of vibrations that never let up. That it's like eternal vibrations. We threw a little sort of rock and roll in for good measure, I think, meaning that, it's on the edge. It's on the edge of the length of it is on the edge. The volume of it is on the edge.
In Becket, near the end, where the struggle is most powerful, she's hearing a little bit of a song. And could you say something about that?
There are times, as you know, when you make a decision that makes no sense and comes from absolutely nowhere. And that was that. And I agree. I thought it was right. And I came, and now this is the process. Now we're like opening in like 15 minutes, not really, like we're opening in a couple days, and I bring this in for Zvi to listen to. My palms are sweating, he's not gonna like it, it's gonna be not the right thing at all. And yeah. And where it came from, I have no idea. I mean, I composed it that night, the night before, and played it and recorded it, but it just was a visceral sort of thing. Felt right.